Is this, can you hear me? No. The tower, which was not supposed to be there, plunges into the earth in a place just before the black pine forest begins to give way to swamp, and then the reeds and wind-gnarled trees of the marsh flats. Beyond the marsh flats and the natural canals lies the ocean, and a little farther down the coast, a derelict lighthouse. So begins Jeff VanderMeer's epic, cosmic, and ultimately quite personal apocalyptic trilogy of books, known to readers either by the name of the anomalous, uncanny zone that acts like an organism called Area X, which has over 30 years absorbed and transformed the countless military scientific expeditions launched to penetrate its mysteries, or the name of the bureaucratic monstrosity in charge both of exploring Area X and trying to fend it off, the Southern Reach. Like many readers, I came to the first book in the trilogy, Annihilation, by word of mouth. Skeptical, frankly, of the New York Times bestseller hype surrounding it, ready to be disappointed, as one so often is. But was soon taken in by its first sentences and caught in the rapt absorption that can make certain books seem like a kind of drug or mind control. The kind that reminds you of William Burroughs' starry-eyed observation, language is a virus from outer space. I soon submitted to the rangier, more Banausic horrors of authority, and the trilogy's, which is kind of like a surreal office space, and the trilogy's final multi-perspective fulfillment and acceptance, at once an expansion and a contraction, which ends with what might be the end of the world, or a world anyway, and a letter to an old friend. The whole thing began with that weird, demanding clause. The tower, which was not supposed to be there, plunges into the earth. A simple noun phrase that evokes the tarot card symbolizing upheaval and revelation, a literary lineage tracing back to Robert Browning, and the terror attacks of 9/11 is set off with a comma from that which follows, a descriptive phrase that makes of its existence a question. The tower was not supposed to be there, yet it was, which means something's gone wrong, someone was lied to, mistakes were made. With this swift reversal, the reader is subtly invited in to identify with the narrator, who turns out to be a biologist, a member of the fateful and final 12th expedition into Area X, who has been misled and betrayed by the agency who sent her in. You may be surprised by what you find here, the book is telling the reader. Things may not be what they appear. But that the tower is not supposed to be there, that the biologist has been lied to, is less strange than the fact that it plunges into the earth, which is clearly not what towers are supposed to do. And the reader plunges with it, vertiginously, into a world that defies understanding. Part of the excitement of this opening gambit is that we're not sure yet what's the world and what's the biologist. Does the tower really plunge into the earth? Or is something off with the biologist's perception? We later find out it's both, and it's not until acceptance that we get to the final hint of how the biologist was seeing truly, how the topographical anomaly, as the Southern Reach calls it, seems to be an alien entity's effort to mimic the shape of the lighthouse, just in the wrong direction. This opening sentence, which I'm dilating on, is a microcosm of the trilogy, a kind of fruiting body, if you will, infecting the reader and unfolding subconsciously within. Its final extended prepositional phrase, in a place just before the black pine forest begins to give way to swamp, and then the reeds and the wind-gnarled trees of the marsh flats, beautifully propulsive, locates us in a world as natural as plunging towers are unnatural, easing our momentary disorientation while also opening up the complex diversity of certain transitional ecosystems where flora and fauna from different life worlds intermingle. Area X, as we come to discover, is involved in a very different kind of transition, one that serves as a powerful metaphor for the transitions our own world is undergoing as polar ice caps melt, weather patterns shift, and the atmosphere and oceans warm at a frightening rate. Part of the reason for these books astonishing success is no doubt because they speak so powerfully to our moment in their uncanny peripheral refraction. VanderMeer's been lucky enough to have that experience some writers get when their own personal obsessions coincide with the dream life of many thousands. Lightning strikes, its magic no less a testament to VanderMeer's weird genius, powerful imagination, and mastery of craft. But another part of the reason for VanderMeer's success is his devotion to his work, a devotion testified to in his craft books such as Book Life, the Steampunk Bible, and the astounding and insightful Wonder Book. While many readers have only heard of VanderMeer recently, he's actually been writing for decades. He started publishing in the 1980s, has written several novels and novellas, including the nightmarish fungal noir novel Finch, has edited numerous anthologies, both alone and with his partner Ann VanderMeer, including The Weird, The New Weird, The Big Book of Science Fiction, and the forthcoming Big Book of Classic Fantasy, and is a prolific blogger, tweeter, essayist, and reviewer, with book reviews in the New York Times, Washington Post, Publishers Weekly, and elsewhere. What's more, he's also a teacher, booster, generous blurber, and all-around good literary citizen. He helps run a 2-week summer creative writing program for teens called Shared Worlds, supports the Octavia Project, a summer science fiction writing workshop for female, trans, and gender nonconforming Brooklyn teens, and has taught and lectured widely, including at the Yale Writers Conference and the Clarion Writers Workshop. I could go on and on and on. He's also a voracious, omnivorous, and precipient reader whose references range from Victorian poetry to cutting-edge avant-garde work in translation. And he's won the Nebula Award, the Shirley Jackson Award, the Locus Award, the British Science Fiction Association Award, the Le Cafard Cosmique Award in France, the Tati Fantasia Award in Finland, the World Fantasy Award 3 times, and numerous other honors. It's a bit intimidating, frankly, to have him here in the flesh, a kind of literary Ariax, who seems to have snuck up on many of us unawares and taken over our brains, absorbing us into his strange, multidimensional imagination, and always threatening to change before our eyes into something else. Current work in production includes the first novel of a YA trilogy, currently titled I Am Squishy. So he tells me. A contemporary thriller about eco-terrorism titled Hummingbird Salamander, which has been optioned by Netflix apparently, and a collection of short fiction. He's planning to read today, from what I understand from his recent novels Born and The Strange Bird. Born, which is either about a post-apocalyptic biotech run amok or parenting in the Trump era. You decide. Whatever he does next, I look forward to reading it almost as much as I'm grateful and excited to have him here today. I'm especially grateful to the Creative Writing Program, the English Department, Rachel Novick and Sustainability Studies, Laura Walls and the William P. and Hazel B. White Chair, and the Institute for Scholarship in the Liberal Arts for making this evening possible. And to Colleen Hoover for arranging the details and running the camera. Please join me in thanking all those people and in welcoming Jeff VanderMeer.